Yeah, it was different 10 years ago. That's how long we've been doing this. Good gosh.
Houston, we have a problem.
Yes!
What you gonna do? 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 What you gonna do?
Oh, yeah.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this episode of the Wrestling Wrealm. I'm Brian H. Waters. This is the real Dwayne Allen. We're back, and you know what? It's only right that we talk about AEW. The reason why I say this, y'all hear what I got to say. But I'm gonna be honest, I ain't trying to be arrogant. But a lot of times y'all don't get to hear, y'all ain't as privileged to hear what this guy has to say. And a lot of times we don't always agree. But we felt it was necessary for us to kind of have a discussion about AEW, considering it's about a year ago we dropped the show, Copy Competition. Now, things have happened. You know, unfortunately, there's been a pandemic. All wrestling suffered, but everybody's subject to the same conversation and criticism. So, realness, how you feeling?
I've been extremely quiet on purpose.
Uh-huh.
Have you noticed? Like I let you do your whole intro. I didn't say a word. I just sat there.
You've been quiet for about a whole year, too.
I just stared at the camera with this look on my face of determination and grit. But we're here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, AEW, that's what we're here to talk about, not about you looking at the camera.
No, it's cool.
I mean, it's cool. I know you're happy to be back.
No, it's been a while. So, but I'm here, and the glaring look I keep anyway.
This guy.
AEW. We addressed this a long time ago. When AEW first hit the scene as a mainstream national wrestling promotion that we will be witnessing on a regular basis, not just these average all-in style independent super shows, we all kind of, second guess what we were looking at because we've heard this story 1,000 times before. Maybe not 1,000 times, but once or twice before, with WWE having the proverbial competition. So now you have AEW. We looked at it before. Here we are now.
Yep.
Quite a bit has happened, but don't get me wrong. I purposely wanted to wait to reserve judgment about the promotion because I wanted to give it time. I wanted to be fair. I wanted to see what they do. But I can no longer keep quiet.
Okay.
I can't sit back and reserve judgment as I once did when it first got started. So that's why we're here. That's why we're here to discuss this, to have this conversation with you guys, because I'm back as I glare into the camera. Okay, never mind.
So, all right, look, let's get right to it. All right. Let's start with the main thing, the main event scene, the World Championship picture.
Okay, sure.
Start off, Chris Jericho was champion.
Right.
He dropped the title to Moxley.
Uh-huh.
Finally, my guy, Kenny Omega.
Okay.
But here's the thing.
Yes.
You introduced me to New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
You told me about this guy named Kenny Omega who's putting on 5-star after 5-star after 10-star matches according to our standards, not the other guy, but according to our standards. So we'll say 10 Wrestling Wrealm W's, right?
Sure.
But where is he? Because to me personally, I'm a little disappointed in this run. How do you feel? How do you feel about this main event title picture? And did they make a mistake? I know it's a loaded question, but I know you have a lot to say. Did they make a mistake implementing that stipulation where Cody Rhodes does not get a championship? And remember, last time we did this, we couldn't even say Cody Rhodes. We had to say Cody, last name Rhodes. Now we can say Cody Rhodes.
Well, see, that's the interesting thing. I can't really say whether they made a mistake or not.
Okay.
Because I don't work in the wrestling business. I'm just a fan. I can only give you my perspective.
Glad you put it that way.
Based off
you
as
like
a fan.
I threw that.
No, that's what we do. That's 10 years in the game. Too sweet. That being said, I can't say if they made a mistake or not because it's not really my call. I don't think that stipulation is going to last forever.
Okay.
But I did like the idea. I know a lot of people were upset when Jericho was the first AEW champion, but it made enough sense. In order to establish any new world title, you have to have a big-time main event player.
Jeff Jarrett, TNA.
Sure. He was the biggest star they had at the time, so he was your primary NWA champion at first, so he would go back and forth to guys like AJ Styles and Monty Brown, and then, you had guys that would come and go, kind of like when it was an indie promotion on that level. But started out with Chris Jericho. It worked out okay. Moxley Sure, it makes sense, another WWE guy, but at the same time, we're talking about an established main eventer. I'm not a fan of Moxley. I never really have been, even as Dean Ambrose, but I will never deny what he brings to the table as far as being a full package superstar in the world of
That's
professional
where you
wrestling.
always keep it fair, though, because you'll admit that you're not a fan, but this is what he is. These are his comments.
Well, then,
Carry on. I just want to make
at
sure
the end of
people
the day, we
understand.
have to kind of educate people. We have to be kind of objective and subjective, and the appropriate spaces. And you can't deny his resume. You can't deny what he's been able to do as far as him being a main event draw in the world of professional wrestling.
Yeah.
So now it goes to Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega is the guy who we originally believed would be the face of AEW from the very beginning. Why do I say that? Because Kenny Omega came off an extremely hot run in New Japan Pro Wrestling of what the stomping grounds in which he made his name from, all the legendary 5- and 6-star matches from Dave Meltzer that he was given.
Yep.
We just assumed that this company is going to be built around Kenny Omega. Let's not forget, Triple H made an offer to Kenny Omega.
Yeah.
He made an offer to the rest of the elite. But the idea of starting their own promotion, being in charge of their own thing, we assumed he would be pushed to the forefront. And it seemed like for an entire year, he took a backseat so Chris Jericho could do his thing, so guys can get established, so we can build their company. But that's neither here nor there, because now we're looking at a situation where Kenny Omega, as in the time that we are recording this particular video, is your current AEW champion and could potentially wear some other world championships down the line. We don't know yet. So as far as the main event scene, I understand it. What I do not like about it, and this is the part that's been misstepped, in my opinion, they have not taken the opportunity to use these established guys and turn some of these younger superstars into main eventers. What I mean by that is sometimes when younger superstars or lesser known talent get the opportunity to even be in that conversation in the first place, it puts them in the main event scene. I'll give you an example. AJ Styles and TNA Wrestling.
Yeah.
I found out about AJ Styles because when I was watching commercials, TNA were doing their pay-per-views weekly.
Yeah.
And I was seeing TNA pay-per-views with Jeff Jarrett, a familiar face, was the NWA champion. And I was immediately curious. I was like, wait a minute, what's Jeff Jarrett hasn't been seen hasn't been on the scene since WCW kind of went under. We all know that he left WWF around the time after his beef with China, goes to WCW to become the chosen one. WCW's in the toilet. It ends. All of a sudden, TNA Wrestling appears, and I see Jeff Jarrett being advertised in this 6 sides of steel match for the NWA Championship against some kid that's flying around with a hood on his head and these little biker shorts named AJ Styles. Immediately, I was curious, and I was like, wait a minute. And I think, I could be wrong, at the time, AJ Styles might have been an NWA champion.
Okay.
So I remember AJ Styles getting the NWA championship, and his runs weren't long at first, but it was enough to establish him as a new and up-and-comer that had a phenomenal way of doing things against this established star of Jeff Jarrett, whether you like him or not, or whether you agree whether he drew or not. At the end of the day, he was probably the top guy in all of TNA Wrestling at the time.
More than Hogan.
Yeah, well,
I've been doing that for 10 years. I had to bring that again.
it's funny that you say that out of all people, because you all know anyway. So
hey, things was different 10 years ago. We
it
can see all
was
Hogan,
it was different 10 years ago. That's how long we've been doing this. Good gosh. But that's an example of taking a new face and programming us as fans and looking at this guy as a main event player. I'm not seeing enough of that in AEW. I'm just not.
Okay.
That's my biggest issue.
All right. You always say something doesn't stick.
Okay.
And this is where I break down the fourth wall, let people, in on our conversations. Shout out to the Flex Zone, Uncle Raj, D, Dre. We have conversations with them every single day. Shout out to our brother, Hugh Diddy. Always, he in his absence today. He ain't get the note. Well, I think he got the note, but he ain't show up to work.
I barely got the note, so I don't know.
You got the note. But anyway.
I don't read the notes.
So, you always say that stuff doesn't stick.
Mm-hmm.
You look at Matt Hardy coming over there.
Yeah.
Miro.
Yep.
Matt Cardona. You know?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, you see these big moments on social media.
Okay.
So-and-so is an AEW.
Mm-hmm.
And then it fizzles out. What would you say you've noticed why that's a problem?
It's a problem because when you're looking at professional wrestling, it's something has to stick.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people say that Dolph Ziggler is not a bigger star today because he hasn't found that thing that actually sticks. Amazing talent, amazing in-ring capabilities.
Mm-hmm.
He's a 5-star talent by all means.
Two-time world champion.
Two-time world champion. He's going to go down as one of the most decorated world champions in all of professional wrestling. And when you look at his resume, but the reality is he's never had it one thing that has stuck with the fans, because it's all about the fans at the end of the day. And it's all about entertaining the fans. it seems like they go for the quick draw.
Yeah.
Right? There's this long-term idea of programming when it comes to wrestling fans and how we do things that makes what happens on your wrestling show memorable, right? And it seems like AEW has had these small moments that never seem to really stick.
Yeah.
Now, in all fairness, some of those things are not their fault. We are in the COVID era of professional wrestling, as I have dubbed it. You're welcome. If somebody steals it, please contact me at my email address, and I will be sure to take care of it as soon as I possibly can. But in the COVID era of professional wrestling, there's a lot of things that's been out of their hand. For instance, Matt Hardy. When the Hardys went back to WWE, to me that was their resting place. Let's have our last run. Let's celebrate our careers. Let's move on. I wasn't expecting him to move on from WWF again to go back out there for another run to prove himself. Now, granted, this is a business. Matt Hardy has a family. He has his own goals, dreams, and aspirations. But I'm a Matt Hardy fan, and sometimes, if not all the times, most WWE talent, when they leave the machine and they go elsewhere, they don't really do well for themselves or their brand. Matt Hardy is not one of those people. Let me make that very, very clear. But in this situation, it fell on flat land because there was no fans.
Yeah.
When Matt Hardy left the WWE and he showed up and he reawoken the broken character of the broken Matt of the broken universe with a slightly altered look. He jumped right into the feud with the Elite and Chris Jericho. It was amazing, but once it ended, then what?
Yeah, that's true.
Where did it go? It fell flat. It didn't stick with us. It was like, man, so now we look at Matt Hardy's arrival in AEW as, oh, it's nice for him to be there, but now it doesn't seem as monumental as it should be. And why does it matter that it must be monumental? Because we grew up in the world of professional wrestling where the shock value went through the roof.
Yeah.
WCW Monday Nitro's first night on cable television, Lex Luger shows up after seemingly to be not under contract with the World Wrestling Federation, shows up on one programming and then shows up on another programming the night after he shows up the previous night, whatever you want to call it. It was a moment that we all remember. It's like, wait a minute. Lex Luger's supposed to be in the WWF. Why is he now in WCW? That's a monumental moment because we're still talking about it to this day. It's all over the WWE Network. It's all over documentaries. It's all over interviews. That moment was important because it kind of set the tone for what WCW was going to be. Yeah. It set the tone for what Eric Bischoff wanted for his new brand. I'm not getting that in AEW.
Ah, okay. Cool. So, I brought up Cody Rhodes. I mean, we think about the Young Bucks. My last question is...
Young Bucks is the one thing they have not messed up.
Yeah, and I was like, man, they should be champions. They should be champions. Hey, I admit, I'm not, I don't work in wrestling. I've been backstage. I see how all the drama goes with booking.
No,
but I was wishing that they could have been, champions and established, but nonetheless. I look at everything.
Okay.
My biggest question has been, because I've been on the record saying this on Break It Down with Brian H. Which
Okay.
you can find right here on our YouTube channel.
Sure.
It's not none of our business what their positions are. How do you feel as far as them being EVPs of the company? Is that something as fans we need to know?
No, it really isn't. My only issue with that whole aspect of them revealing that they're EVPs of AEW, the problem with that was that's something we didn't have to know.
Yeah, because I feel like because of that, wrestlers have egos. Yeah. They didn't want to put themselves over because they didn't want us to tweet about it. That's the reason why I say it's none of our business.
At the end of the day, it's like this. We have seen other performers that have had backstage roles before. Dusty Rhodes, one of the biggest ones. Triple H is probably another one of the biggest ones. If not
Kevin
the biggest
Nash
one.
booked himself to be Goldberg.
I can't really say he didn't.
Well, he says he didn't.
Well, that's...
Goldberg's still mad about that.
He's not over it. He's clearly not over it.
Right.
Like, he's not over that. But nevertheless.
How you booked yourself in the realm and tried to act like you didn't book yourself? Oh, you remember, it was about 2012. I'm jiving.
I don't think I recall that.
But yeah, go ahead anyway.
But at the end of the day, them letting us know that they were EVPs is something that we didn't have to know. Even if they were, that's fine. That's not something that we didn't have to know because now they worked that into the storyline. And to me, that you kind of backed yourself into the wall. They came into the situation, the biggest stars unsigned by WWE.
Yeah.
And they were embarking on something that was completely ambitious. Starting a completely new national televised wrestling promotion to go head to head with WWE. Not necessarily in the ratings and TV, but as far as everything, as far as dividing the audience, breaking into a new segment or a new audience, having superstars decide they don't have to take what they want from WWE, whether you work it backstage, on screen, whatever. You can go to another promotion now and actually feed your family. So that to me had a major play in it. But by them acknowledging that they're behind the scenes executive vice president, you have Cody saying, "Well, I'm not going to. If I lose this match, I'll never challenge for the AEW World Title." But you know what? How much would AEW have probably benefited if Cody was fighting for the AEW title? Whether he was chasing, whether he had the title, just the storyline by itself, because they were hot at the moment.
Yeah.
They were hot, and it's not that they're not hot now, but it's just the initial buzz. To me, it was wasted, and they could have done so much more. Are they successful? By all means.
I got one last question.
Oh boy. Okay.
It just because it took me back to the first episode or a while ago. It was a time where you said you don't remember a Cody Rhodes match.
Yes.
Good performer, but nothing. Do you still feel that way as we are? As we close out this look back at AEW. Do you still feel that way?
No, not at all. Because
Okay.
I think for the first time, and this is why I'm very okay with. I'm a Cody Rhodes fan, and I didn't become a Cody Rhodes fan until he left WWE.
Right.
And I'm okay with that. Like no.
I'll tell you, I like when he changed the belt.
I like when he changed the belt. When he kind of came out of this, I'm not going to be dashing anymore, and he kind of just started being kind of straightforward a little bit. That was kind of my favorite Cody. Like when he was beefing with Booker T, when Booker T came back, that was one of my favorite feuds at that time. But we got to see Cody Rhodes in a light that we had not seen him before. And he showed me things that he probably didn't have the freedom to do before. Because, working at WWE, he was Stardust first and foremost. Stardust, really.
Yeah.
But he has given me more memorable moments outside of WWE than he has in WWE, which I never want to see him go back, to be honest with you. Unless the only way I want to see Cody Rhodes go back to WWE is if AEW ends up like TNA, where they're under a new management or new ownership, and they kind of they push their older guys out to bring in new stuff in, and they decide, well, we're just going to go back anyway.
Yeah. I never even thought about it, to be honest with you. Like it just
Cody Rhodes' match with his brother, the natural Dustin Rhodes, was probably to me his most memorable match. That was the first time I said that's the match that to me Cody Rhodes is known for.
Yeah.
We saw everything. We saw the work. We saw the story. We saw the blood. We saw a lot. I mean, it was heart wrenching. And then after the reconciliation, it kind of.
Dusty would have been proud.
Oh yeah.
I never met the guy, but I just knowing what we hear about the way he felt about his children
his sons,
and his extended children, that's something he would have been proud of.
And also, not only that match, I'm gonna tell you another match that's one of my favorites now. His cage match with Wardlow.
Okay, yeah.
I'm trying to tell you, Wardlow is up next.
Okay.
I'm saying it now. Wardlow is the money guy. I think that's the guy that they got to start grooming and say, yo, this he needs to be one of our main event players. Like he's got to be one of our established guys. But I don't think that's AEW has not, to me, in my opinion, they haven't done well with that. They've done well with MJF.
Yeah.
They've established him as a top guy, which I could appreciate. They have familiarized us with new names that are household names now that weren't there before. I think that's a success.
I'm not a fan of the Jurassic Park, but that's me.
You keep calling them Jurassic Park.
The Luchasaurus, Jungle Boy,
Jurassic Express.
Yeah.
I'm tired of them. I'm not fans of them either. But
I'm just not.
Who knows? But AEW has a long way to go. I think they're moving in the right direction. But to me, there's a lot more they could have done in a small space. But then again, what do we know? We're just fans.
Yeah, I can't wait though, because I guarantee you this: we'll be at shows when they're in the area.
Sure.
As long as we ain't got other stuff going on our schedule, we will be. Because at the end of the day, it's wrestling. We love wrestling, so.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. Since you want to ask all the goddamn questions, we switch it up after 10 years. I'm going to ask a question for once. Is AEW finally competition for WWE? Go.
No, they're not competition.
Why?
Because I look at. All right, if we look at the numbers, right, and I'm not
Which are irrelevant to
ratings
us.
guy because look, I already pulled out all the books. This guy was right there aside with me studying at the Morgan State University. I understand ratings have changed,
Did we go to you? Yeah, that's
but when I look at the social media, the trends and all that, I don't see them on the same level as WWE. I mean, when you look at WWE, they got toys in every store. They got a network. They they own cereal boxes. You don't see AEW. Now, what people got to remember, at the height of WCW, You would go in this market and you would see a TV Guide magazine. One had Goldberg, one had Stone Cold. That was competition.
Okay, so let's play devil's advocate, not to cut you off.
Mm-hmm.
AEW's just getting started. They're not at their height. What if AEW gets cereal boxes and they get TV Guide covers and they get whatever you just said? They're starting to have action figures. Action figures are starting to roll out in
And
stores.
that's important.
Okay, the merchandising, that's pretty much.
How long did it take for WCW to get all this stuff?
I don't.
You know, and I use that as an example because that's the only time that we legitimately saw WWE in the red, possibly going under. Of course, we learned this stuff later. Monday Night Wars, we've seen it or not. If you haven't, go watch it. But that's the only time where we saw, like, okay, they were scared. They like, and even Taker said, look, he was gonna ride that shit until the wheel fell off.
Okay.
Or until it sank. That's the thing. We don't see that with AEW. That's why I can't call them competition, but they are a nice alternative.
Once again, because we're the Wrestling Realm and we've been doing this for 10 years, let's go even deeper.
Mm-hmm.
You say all that, it does make sense. But my question to you is, at what point does AEW do that and you consider them competition? Because they're competing right now with WWE's third brand in NXT, and they have successfully beat them in the ratings over and over and over again. Now, it may be WWE's third brand, but AEW's short time of existence, they've done quite a bit, and it seems almost unprecedented, even with billionaire money. So at what point does AEW become competition? What happens if they do all the things that you just said? What happens if they start, if guys start to jump ship, when they have the older guys in WWE start to get pushed out the door because old Vin Man decides we got to go younger, as he always does, and they decide, you know what, I got enough time, I got another run, I'm going to Tony Khan, I'm going to AEW. At what point will they be a successful competitor to the WWE? Because if you ask those guys, a lot of those guys over there say this is the future of professional wrestling. They think they're going to change the business completely.
I mean, from a fan standpoint, I'll go back to
He's on the hot seat now.
recognition. You know,
Sure.
when I can go outside and people recognize AEW, and that's going to be hard to do. I mean, you're talking something that's a couple years in existence versus something that's over 70 years in existence. That's why it would take literally forever. That's like saying, when would the XFL be in competition with the NFL? You know what I mean? It's just not. I'm not saying it's not possible, but I don't see it. It would take, to me, in my belief, it would take 10 years.
Okay. So maybe we should just revisit this conversation for another 10 years. Good gosh. Do you think we'll be doing this in another 10 years?
Yeah.
I think so, too. I don't think Like, who am I kidding? You know we're going to be doing this in 10 years.
Shoot, by that time, our kids they're going to have little Wrestling Realms. Wrestling Realm, the sequel.
Like, what would be a good, like, junior name for Wrestling Realm? Like, Wrestling Realm?
No, you got to be thinking. I ain't got that much brain power to think right now. They'll come up with it.
That's because we've been doing this for 10 years.
There you
We
go.
say 10 years a lot on this.
Yeah.
We must be doing this for 10 years. 10-year anniversary.
Started from the bottom, now we're here.
You really just used the Drake? Oh, wow.
I had to, but it was like my man Jerv said, no new friends is the dumbest song because new friends are important.
Go ahead. What else you got? You just roll. Like, you got more?
I'm done, you know.
Okay. All right. 'Cause you just,
I think our producers are telling us rap.
is that, are they?
Yeah.
Okay. That's.
So, ladies and gentlemen, as always, we appreciate. Let them know where they can find you.
They can find me at Dwayne Allen 24 on Twitter and follow my business page on Instagram, TRDABRAND.
It's about time you go to the business page. I'm just saying.
I figured it's
Hey,
time.
man, I'm a huge fan. But make sure you follow me at Brian H. Waters on all social media platforms. Make sure you follow the Wrestling Realm at Wrestling Realm. Realm spelled with a W if you can't tell with all the branding on the video. Shout out to my mother for making the suggestion for the alliteration. Until the next time, folks. Too sweet.
Too sweet. And subscribe. Like, for goodness sake, like, subscribe.
Oh, that was coming as a video.
I mean, you said it. No, you said it, but sometimes we got to say it again.
That's true.
Since people like to hear what we have to say. Subscribe, please.